Hello there, my name by birth is Alex William Smith, but I'm better known these days as Jonathan Royle, hypnotist and magician. And back in 1998, when I attempted to expose the dishonest and illegal tactics of the News of the World's investigative reporter, the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood, I was known as Alex Leroy Hypnotist back then. In any event, this video is being made in May 2022 just to bring you up to date on the fact that I have just submitted my appeal, resubmitted that is, to the Criminal Cases Review Commission. Because in 1998 I set out to expose Mazher Mahmood's dishonest and illegal techniques, fully explained on my page at www.circusofthemind.net. That's www.circusofthemind.net. This backfired as explained at that page, and ultimately in early 1999 led to me being given 2 convictions for delivery of counterfeit coins. Coins that were supplied, the evidence now indicates, by Mahmood's own associates with money provided by him supplying, well, all elements of the supply chain. It becomes clearer at circusofthemind.net, and the video footage that follows, where it's illustrated this was his standard modus operandi, whatever the apparent alleged sting story was. So in 1999 I was jailed, and then there was nothing happened really until 2014, other than I collected evidence galore of further illustration of Mahmood's dishonesty, lies and arguably illegal techniques, and put them on my blog page, circusofthemind.net. I've been campaigning for justice for myself and other victims of Mahmood and press lies, intrusion and illegal activities for years. And then in 2014, the Talisa Kontostavlos trial collapsed sensationally in London, and Mahmood was exposed as a liar and ultimately charged with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice along with his driver, Alan Smith. Ultimately, they were both jailed at the Old Bailey in London, and as a result of this, the Crown Prosecution Service issued Talisa packs. By Talisa packs, I mean disclosure packs about the Talisa trial. That's all it contained, a little bit of information about that. They had an opportunity then to disclose to us stuff that we now are aware exists, going back to at least 1994, where the police and CPS communicated with newsgroup newspapers as well, somehow having this information on their files that's been come out during the Mittville, the phone hacking trials in the High Court, evidence that the police and CPS said back in 94, after a case collapsed because of it appears and indicates dishonesty by Mahmood, that his word should not be trusted. And yet this was never disclosed to me or any of the other Mahmood victims whose cases went to court after 1994. So there was serious, there wasn't just that, there was many other cases that collapsed and other evidence that came to light that cast doubt on Mahmood's dishonesty and actions that was never disclosed to me or anyone else. And had it been, my case and loads of others would never have gone to trial. There's been a massive miscarriage of justice for many people here through non-disclosure, I would argue. But also, in 2015, my case, along with many others, was set into action. In my case, because I'd not previously appealed, because I was told I couldn't. I was given incorrect advice. That's the only reason I changed my plea from not guilty to guilty on the first day of trial back in 1999, because I was strongly advised that my plea of entrapment and dishonest techniques being used by Mahmood and manipulation wouldn't work. And that turns out to have been bad advice, because it did work for various other people over the years, and with the evidence I had available at the time, it would, looking back on it now with hindsight, have worked for me. But hey-oh, that's water under the bridge now. In 2015, my case was submitted to the Court of Appeal. In 2016, the single judge turned it down based on the very small amount of evidence available at the time, because documents had been lost by all parties during the passage of time. So in 2016, when the single judge turned me down, my lawyer at the time, Siobhan Egan of Lewis Naders Law, immediately sent my case to the Criminal Cases Review Commission before she even informed me that the single judge had turned it down. This then dragged on till 2018 when the CCRC said that they weren't going to refer it to court. I searched around to try and get pro bono legal advice, and ultimately some people were very kind, gave me information, and as a result I found out I could go back to the Court of Appeal because I'd never gone to the full court. And in early 2019, May 2019 to be precise, 3 years practically to the day of this video being released, I submitted my own self-written grounds of appeal to the Courts of Appeal in London. And then along the way, I was fortunate enough, thanks to the Advocate charity, to be given kind assistance by Mr. James Manning of Nexus Chambers in London, an excellent barrister who helped me put together perfected grounds of appeal worded properly in order that I could apply to the Court of Appeal for an extension of time and to vary my grounds to add the new evidence that came to light in 2021. I couldn't have possibly viewed this evidence before because I wasn't aware of it, but I now have seen receipts that show unlawful information gathering was used against me, so-called phone hacking and other techniques such as private investigators, and documents that show that we were not disclosed information by the police or CPS that we should have done about Mahmood's lack of reliability as a witness and his dishonesty and such like. I've been given a statement by Steve Grayson, who used to work with Mahmood, confirming that he'd witnessed Mahmood drug people's drinks during the course of stings, and I'm pretty certain that happened to me, as explained on circusofthemind.net, as of loads of other people have stated such happened to them, including to Lisa herself. And ultimately, in January of 2022, I appeared at the Royal Courts of Justice for my hearing, and unfortunately the three judges decided not to give me an extension of time and not to let me vary my grounds of appeal because they weren't giving me an extension of time. So all my new evidence has not yet been heard by the full court, and such in May 2022 I've submitted a reapplication to the Criminal Cases Review Commission here in England so that they can see that I've now got dozens of statements from people giving information proving that I was subject to the same entrapment and techniques as Mahmood's other victims, and that although I set out thinking and genuinely believing that I was setting everything up so that I could attempt to expose Mahmood's dishonesty and illegal techniques, actually he and his team were always one step ahead of me for the reasons explained on circusofthemind.net, and it was total entrapment from day one. They knew that I knew who he was, so they should have really walked away if they were interested in truth and journalism, but instead they manipulated me, they enticed me, they threatened me behind the scenes, and ultimately they provided the money to be able to get the coins, and they also provided the information of where to get them, and as is illustrated by the video footage that follows, they were all elements of the supply chain, and his modus operandi was the same with me as to Lisa and a whole bunch of his other victims. I've got the statement of being drugged, I've got proof of unlawful information gathering, the fact there's been monumental disclosure, lack of disclosure by the police and CPS on things that they knew about a long time ago. Watch the video footage that follows, it gives you an overview of the story, and then be sure to check out the other evidence galore at circusofthemind.net.
This is a man who doesn't want you to see his face. Mazher Mahmood went to court to stop Panorama showing you pictures like this.
I'll give you a shout. I'm about to go on a job now. I'll give you a shout.
Posing as a fake sheikh, the News of the World reporter delighted in exposing the secrets of the rich and famous. Dozens of people were sent to jail following his undercover stings.
I never killed anyone, but it feels like I've served a life sentence.
Now Mazher Mahmood stands accused of being a liar.
Mazher Mahmood was Pinocchio on speed. It was so easy for him to fit anybody up.
The king of the sting destroyed lives, leaving a trail of victims in his wake.
This would never have happened unless they created the situation. They made it happen.
But we can reveal police and prosecutors had evidenced for years Mazher Mahmood's word should not have been relied upon.
how I knew I had a claim. When I brought the claim, I found to my horror that for 3.5 days, Mazher Mahmood's surveillance team had been following me in 1998 to try and pin something on me. And if anyone knows Mazher Mahmood's history, you can imagine how worrying and what a close escape that must have been for me, given that so many people who were innocent of anything that he accused them of have gone to prison on the basis of his false stories, his false evidence, and his false statements to the police, the prosecution, and to court. And I was that close. And there are plenty of other people out there who were the victims of him, who clearly had their data obtained by him through phone hacking and other unlawful means.
She always denied arranging a drugs deal, and when the trial against pop star Talisa collapsed, she repeated those denials.
I have never dealt drugs and never been involved in taking or dealing cocaine.
Little Mix.
She was a judge on The X Factor when the journalist Mazher Mahmood, also known as the fake Sheikh, targeted her. The undercover sting led to this headline and to the subsequent trial. Now the former Sun on Sunday and News of the World reporter has been charged with conspiring to pervert the course of justice after the Crown Prosecution Service said he's alleged to have misled the court. Today he issued a statement saying, "I'm deeply disappointed that after a totally unjustified delay, the Crown Prosecution Service have today informed me that they have decided to charge me with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. I deny the offence. I will vigorously contest it at court. In the meantime, I have nothing further to say." Mazher Mahmood had great success with his undercover stings. An investigation into 3 Pakistani cricketers led to convictions for match fixing. Sven-Göran Eriksson was also a target, along with the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. But he was suspended by the Sun newspaper last year after the collapse of Talisa's trial. In his stings, he was rarely seen, but Mazher Mahmood will now appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on the 30th of October. Layla Hayes, 5 News.
Now, Mazher Mahmood, one of Britain's most notorious undercover reporters, now faces jail after he was found guilty of tampering with police evidence. Mahmood, known as the fake Sheikh, faced charges linked to the collapse trial of the singer Talisa Konstavlos. As soon as the verdict was announced, 18 people who'd been caught up in Mahmood's elaborate sting operations launched civil claims, which, if successful, could total hundreds of millions of pounds. Our Home Affairs correspondent Darshna Soni was in court.
For 30 years, he has revelled in hiding his identity. His lucrative career depends on it. The self-styled king of the sting, turning up to court every day beneath a balaclava. But today, the hunter became the hunted.
Miss Mahmood, what would you like to say?
Why did you tamper with the evidence?
Say to Talisa. Would you like to apologise for Talisa?
Are you sorry?
You're guilty of lying to secure a scoop. What do you say to that? Did you lie to get a front-page headline? What do you say to that?
The man who once spent thousands on injunctions against those who would print his picture, with his conviction, couldn't stop his mugshot being freely published. Mazher Mahmood unmasked. Here he is. The fake Sheikh earned hundreds of thousands of pounds and claimed to expose wrongdoing. But he himself has been found guilty of doing wrong.
You'd be surprised, his career's over as well. He's finished. Yeah. Probably get banged up as well. Also, I can shake a bit at the side.
I think he's gone to what we might call the dark side by thinking of stories in advance of them happening and then making them happen.
For some, Mazher Mahmood's style of subterfuge represented all that was wrong at the News of the World. With that paper's collapse, the relaunch of the Sun on Sunday was meant to be a new beginning, but Mahmood's old methods have now sullied the successor. Mazher Mahmood wanted to impress his new tabloid bosses at the Sun, and so, along with his driver Alan Smith, tampered with evidence to secure a scoop. The fake Sheikh apparently had an endless expense account. He'd invite his targets to some of the finest hotels in London, and here he would splash the cash, offering champagne and cocktails, and even the promise of lucrative contracts or film roles. But did his methods amount to entrapment? Over the years, there have been growing criticisms, and calls for the investigator to be investigated. Mazher Mahmood was 21 when he bought his first fake sheikh outfit for £12 from an Islamic bookshop in Birmingham. With no formal training, he exposed everyone from sports stars and celebs to the royal family. He rose to become the country's most famous and controversial undercover reporter. But it was his world exclusive on an X Factor judge that would land him in the dock. In 2013, Talisa Kontostavlos was dropped from the X Factor panel after a turbulent 12 months of headlines about her private life. Her own singing career was flagging and she was trying to make it as an actress. Mazher Mahmood saw his chance. Posing as a Bollywood filmmaker, he wined and dined her in fancy hotels, offering a leading role opposite Leonardo DiCaprio, if she could prove she was streetwise.
Almost like a bad girl.
Yeah. A bit ghetto. Yeah.
You've got, but that kind of... I mean, a kind of a...
Now I get it. Now it makes complete sense.
Talisa was charged with agreeing to supply Mahmood with cocaine, but the case dramatically collapsed when the judge accused Mahmood of lying about conspiring with his driver to change the driver's police statement.
This whole case was a horrific and disgusting entrapment by Mazher Mahmood and the Sun on Sunday newspaper.
The CPS immediately announced it was reviewing 25 previous convictions that Mahmood's stories had secured. The case raised difficult questions for the CPS and the Met Police about their enduring relationship with the reporter and his News International bosses. Mahmood often worked with them on investigations, and his paper would be allowed to film the moment of arrest, including the now discredited Victoria Beckham kidnap plot.
The police were always ready to swoop in conjunction with his scoops, and that made one inherently suspicious.
George Galloway was almost another front-page splash for the Sheikh. He too was lured to a top hotel by Mahmood, who posed as a wealthy businessman.
I just smelt a very big rat. It's the difference between angling and trawling. Angling is specific, with a specific target and for a reason. Trawling is just a fishing expedition, just throwing a net into the water and dragging it along the bottom and seeing what you can entrap within it.
Not known for passing on publicity himself, Mr. Galloway's office seized the opportunity to expose Mahmood, and he used an appearance on Channel 4 News to blow the reporter's cover.
Well, here he is. This is the fake Sheikh.
Ah, right.
That's him in civvies.
Mahmood's editors at News UK would only say today that they were disappointed in his conviction.
Mr. Mahmood, what would you like to say?
For critics of his style of journalism, his downfall was only a matter of time. When he's sentenced in 2 weeks, the fraudulent fake could face prison.
The newspaper journalist Mazher Mahmood, known as the fake Sheikh, has been jailed for 15 months for tampering with evidence during the drugs trial of the pop star Talisa Kontostavlos. A number of other celebrities who claim they were victim of Mahmood's stings and jailed as a result are now trying to have their convictions overturned. David Silito reports.
The man with his face hidden behind the hood is Mazher Mahmood, the fake Sheikh, the king of the tabloid sting. He would pose as an Arab sheikh and he lured dozens of people to do or say things that made them front-page news. Many ended up in prison. Today, he was the one heading for jail. A 15-month sentence for lying, manipulating evidence, trying to get the singer Talisa convicted on a drugs charge. Outside court, one of his former victims, the actor John Alford, read out a statement.
We now know that Mazher Mahmood is a manipulator of evidence and a serial perjurer. This goes to show no one is above the law.
Behind him, others who'd been stung by the fake Sheikh.
Firstly, I would like to welcome the jury's verdict. I thank the British public and our families for their unwavering support. And I would also like to thank Alistair Morgan for his strength and inspiration in fighting injustice. In 1984, the Police and Criminal Evidence Act was put in place to protect the public from unscrupulous and corrupt police officers. But there is nothing in place to protect us, the public, from unscrupulous and corrupt journalists. This has led to a very unsavoury relationship between the two. We now know that Mazher Mahmood is a manipulator of evidence and a serial perjurer. This goes to show no one is above the law, and no one can create crimes or destroy evidence. There is a clear pattern of evidence manipulation in all of our cases. All the tapes Mazher Mahmood had sole possession of were destroyed or went missing. There are many more questions to be asked and a lot more justice to be served. It's taken over 20 years for some of us, but finally a judge and a jury of our peers has woken up to Mazher Mahmood's lies. We would now like to take this opportunity to ask Parliament to honour their promise to the British people and implement Leveson Part 2. Our three estates, the monarchy, Parliament and a judicial system, they must be held accountable, yes, but they must not be held to ransom by a corrupt or unscrupulous press. So please, let's cleanse this stain on our democracy once and for all. Thank you.
I've been amazed that it's taken so long to bring him to book. He sailed so close to the wind on so many occasions, and he seems to have really skated on thin ice and got away with it.
Basically, because of the story that went out about me, I lost my home, I lost my job. It wasn't just a job, it was a career. And a career that I think I would have done very well at, and it would have lasted quite a long time. He stole that from me.
We are drug dealers. We have paid this guy to supply the drugs to give to her.
And so the trap was laid. This secret camera footage, never broadcast before, shows us the inner workings of a Mazher Mahmood sting. Here's Steve Grayson. Billy, the man with the cocaine, is on the right. And here's Mazher Mahmood rehearsing the sting. This is the first time Emma's seen this footage.
Makes me feel sick to see them together, getting ready to set me up.
So the point is this, is the story is this page 3 girl, Emma, supplies drugs to the News of the World. What's the truth?
She wouldn't have done if Billy wasn't there.
Later, Emma was told that Billy had ended up a headless corpse. In fact, he's alive and well, and an estate agent. He told Panorama,
"I'd like to apologise to Emma for my part in stitching her up. The only real criminal was Mazher Mahmood. He gave me the money to buy the cocaine."
These people have one thing in common. Their lives were wrecked by the fake Sheikh. Stage hypnotist Jonathan Royle says he was stitched up by Mahmood when he got 6 months in prison for giving the reporter fake coins.
I can't describe what it was like from the moment that the judge said, "Send him down." Your mind plays tricks on you. It was a living nightmare. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Well, I was put on suicide watch in strange ways. I slept for weeks in prison, fully clothed, scared that what you see in films might happen. People have now started to see that what I've been saying for the past 18.5 years actually is true. The man is a liar.
Dozens of people have been jailed on the strength of Mazher Mahmood's stories. But Panorama has seen police documents which raise serious questions about why the Metropolitan Police relied upon the fake Sheikh's evidence. In 1999, a covert police investigation, part of a murder inquiry, had revealed links between corrupt police officers, a firm of private detectives called Southern Investigations, and tabloid journalists. One name that cropped up? Mazher Mahmood. One of the documents says, source met Maz. Maz was with a plainclothes officer. The officer was selling a story to Maz. We have no way of verifying that. Mazher Mahmood insists he has never bought stories from police officers. He wasn't the only journalist whose name cropped up in the paperwork. But shouldn't the police have tried to find out more? We've been told this information should have led to a full-scale inquiry.
That's how I knew I had a claim. When I brought the claim, I found to my horror that for 3.5 days, Mazher Mahmood's surveillance team had been following me in 1998 to try and pin something on me. And if anyone knows Mazher Mahmood's history, you can imagine how worrying and what a close escape that must have been for me, given that so many people who were innocent of anything that he accused them of have gone to prison on the basis of his false stories, his false evidence, and his false statements to the police, the prosecution, and to court. And I was that close. And there are plenty of other people out there who were the victims of him, who clearly had their data obtained by him through phone hacking and other unlawful means.
They had a very, very, very cosy relationship with the press because they can use lies, trickery and deceit to get a story, which they call subterfuge. Very convenient for them, very damning for us.
Their solicitor is calling for an inquiry, and she's damning about the conduct of the Metropolitan Police.
Corrupt.
Corrupt.
Absolute corruption.
Corrupt is a heavy word.
It is, and what was going on was very heavy and very serious, but we have evidence of that. I hope finally people will listen to what these men have been saying all along, and I would stress this, there isn't one of those convictions that Mahmood sustained has not been tainted by his behaviour. Not one.
The reporter's victims plan to sue News UK in the civil courts. Today, the company said they would fight those cases and that Mahmood had led scores of successful investigations during his 25-year career with the company, which had led to the exposure of criminality and wrongdoing.
For the likes of us and the other people that he stung, I certainly don't feel justice has been done, do you?
Not really.
No.
No.
No. And as far as not wishing it on my worst enemy, I'm more than happy that Mazher Mahmood is now sat there, quaking in his boots, wondering what's going to happen to him in jail. I'd like to be a fly on the wall.
The question now is, why did the authorities let these people suffer for so long?
So there you have it. It's May 2022. I've just put my reapplication into the Criminal Cases Review Commission. And I'm still fighting, not just for me, but for all of Mahmood's victims and other victims of media lies, dishonesty and illegal techniques. Check out the updated evidence. It gets updated regularly at circusofthemind.net. Circusofthemind.net. Or my main website is magicalguru.com.